CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I noticed that these kind of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might make the experience a little creepier. So tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I found a job on the dark web to work in old factory on secret government experiment making cartoon for the rich kids. I think I know now why some elite kids are not allowed to go in school and what those cartoons are teaching. Posted to r/nosleep, tagged true story. Style: Luna the YouTuber meets real life horror storytelling. Yo, I don't even know where to start with this, and I'm not trying to get sympathy or anything. I just needed to post this somewhere where people won't call me insane or accuse me of lying just to get clicks. I swear on everything, this actually happened. My name's Ryan. I'm 23 now, but this all started when I was 21, right around the tail end of lockdown, back when people were still trying to hustle however they could. You remember those days, right? Everyone was posting Cash App links in their bios. OnlyFans was poppin', and every TikTok was about some side hustle or crypto scam. Me? I was broke as hell, still living in my mom's basement in Ohio, and trying to find literally anything to keep the lights on. One night, around 2 a.m., I was scrolling through Reddit, flipping between r/freelance, r/tech support gore, and a bunch of sketchy side hustle forums when I came across a link. It didn't have any upvotes and looked like it had been shadow banned almost immediately. It said, "Seeking nighttime workers for exclusive animation project. High pay. No prior experience needed. Discretion required," with a weird link attached. It wasn't a .com, .org, or anything normal. It ended in .onion. At first, I thought it was just another dumb scam or phishing thing, but I'd heard of the dark web before, mostly from YouTubers doing dark web mystery box unboxings. I figured maybe I'd just poke around. Curiosity killed the cat and all that. So I downloaded Tor, logged in through a VPN, and pasted the link. The page that loaded up looked basic. Black background, white monospace text, no logo, just a single message. Project Playroom, accepting recruits. $5,000 per week. Remote location provided upon contract. Do not share this link. Surveillance required during employment. Submit your ID, blood type, and preferred cartoon style below. Yeah, blood type. That should have been the first red flag. I almost closed the tab right there. But, look, I was desperate. $5,000 a week. You know how many people slave away at Starbucks or Target for a fraction of that? I filled out the form. Fake name, obviously, but the rest was real. I had no idea what preferred cartoon style meant, so I just put 1960s Nickelodeon. I figured it sounded innocent enough. I submitted the form, and nothing happened. No confirmation. No thank you. Just a black screen and a loading bar. I left my computer running and fell asleep. The package. Next morning, I wake up to a knock at the door. UPS delivery. No return address. Just my name, my real name, on the label. Inside the package, a gray hoodie, size L, which is what I wear, creepy, a disposable Nokia phone with no contacts, A small black USB, a plane ticket to Montana, leaving in 2 days, and a sticky note that said, "See you soon. Welcome to Playroom." I swear to God, I looked outside my window, and there was a black Tesla parked across the street. No plates, tinted windows. Sat there for like an hour after the package was dropped off. I tried calling the number on the Nokia. Nothing. Just a weird robotic dial tone. I told my friends about it on Discord. They said it was probably a scam, maybe some ARG, or even a social experiment. One of them joked it was like Willy Wonka for sociopaths. I laughed it off, but my gut was doing flips. Still, 2 days later, I packed my bag and got on that damn plane. Arrival at the factory. I landed at some no-name airport in Montana. Literally just one terminal, a vending machine, and 2 security guards who looked like they hadn't slept in 30 hours. Outside was a man holding a sign that just said R. No logo, no uniform, just dark shades and a shaved head. I got in the car. He didn't say a word. We drove for what felt like 2 hours. No cell service, no landmarks, just endless woods and dirt roads. Then we pulled up to this old concrete building, maybe 4 stories high, surrounded by an electric fence. There were no signs, no windows, just a single steel door and a keypad. We went inside. The studio. If you're imagining Pixar or even an indie animation studio, forget it. This place looked like a Cold War era bunker. Fluorescent lights, buzzing like hell. Gray walls, security cameras everywhere. There were maybe 10 other people there. Some younger than me, others way older. All of us were given matching gray hoodies and IDs with numbers instead of names. Mine was subject number 7. They brought us to a room with about 20 computers, each with this weird animation software already loaded. But it wasn't like Adobe or anything I'd ever seen before. The interface was clunky, with these disturbing character models, almost too lifelike, like Uncanny Valley stuff. Every character had names like Sissy the Sheep, Uncle Belly, and Playful Poppy, but when you clicked on their voice lines or animations, they said weird things. Like I remember Poppy saying, "If they scream, you're doing it wrong. They shouldn't be able to scream." I thought maybe it was glitched or corrupted, but nobody else seemed surprised. The first animation. They told us to make a 60-second clip, using only approved models and voice lines. The catch? We weren't allowed to add music, only ambient background noise. My first clip was just Poppy skipping through a forest, talking about teeth games. At the end, she finds a hole in the ground and throws something inside it. You never see what it is, but there's this awful gurgling sound afterward, and the last frame just lingers on her smiling for 10 seconds straight. The software exported the file to a USB automatically and wiped the project clean. Later that night, someone knocked on my room's door. It was another worker, this girl who looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were sunken, and she whispered, "Don't let them put you in the basement." Then she ran off. The elite kids. The next day, we had a briefing. A guy in a lab coat, no name tag, told us the animations we were creating were part of an exclusive behavioral therapy program for children of high-value clients. He never said the word elite, but we all knew what he meant. He showed us a chart on this crusty projector screen. It listed places like Dubai, Monaco, Cannes, Zurich, Bel Air. He said our audience was homeschooled, highly sensitive, and needed special programming to process their roles in the global structure. Bro, what does that even mean? And here's the creepiest part. They showed us actual footage of one of the kids watching our animations. He was sitting in this gold-plated room, wearing a suit, maybe 8 or 9 years old. No expression. He watched my Poppy clip all the way through without blinking. When it ended, he whispered something in French. One of the guys in the room translated it. I want to go back to the place with the teeth. At that point, I realized this wasn't just a creepy art project or some deep web cult. We were making something real, something that was changing those kids. I should have left right then, but I didn't. And that's when they told me, "Congratulations, you're being assigned to the basement level." I didn't even say yes. I didn't have a choice. The moment they told me I was assigned to the basement, 2 of the guards came into my room, asked me to bring only what I came with, and walked me silently to the elevator at the far end of the hallway. Not the one we all used for lunch or the animation floor. This one had no buttons, just a card slot and a camera above it, blinking red like a dying eye. They didn't speak as they slid a black card through the slot. The doors opened with a hiss. Cold air came out, heavy with the stench of bleach, metal, and something burnt. We descended for what felt like forever. There were no floor indicators, no music, just the sound of the elevator cables groaning and this faint humming noise that got louder the deeper we went. I remember I kept clenching my jaw to pop my ears. The pressure felt wrong, like we were descending into something that wasn't meant for people. When the doors opened, everything changed. The lower levels, the air was colder, not like turn up the AC cold. This was surgical, industrial cold. There were frost patches on the walls. The fluorescent lights above us flickered every few seconds, and you could hear everything. Footsteps, water dripping, machinery clanking in the distance like it was alive. The hallway was painted white, but the walls were scratched up. Not graffiti, scratches, like something had been dragged along them over and over. Some of the lines were too high up for any normal person to reach. I asked the guard behind me where we were. He just said, "Level -6, testing and encoding. Don't talk unless they ask you to." We passed by glass rooms. Some were empty, others weren't. In one, I swear I saw a kid sitting cross-legged in the middle of the room, wearing a VR headset and drooling. There were electrodes taped to his neck and arms, and a screen above him played one of the cartoons we'd made. But it was altered. Poppy wasn't skipping anymore. She was tearing open a plastic bag with something breathing inside it, and every time she laughed, the kid twitched, like violently. Another room had someone, I don't know if it was even a person, strapped to a chair, being force-fed a cartoon on loop, while this machine pressed cold metal instruments against their face, in sync with the sound cues from the animation. I looked at the guard again. I said, "What the hell is this?" He didn't look at me. He just said, "You're here to encode, not observe." The room with no door. They brought me to a room that didn't even have a visible entrance, just a wall that slid open after a few beeps. Inside was a single animation rig, a desk, a metal bed bolted to the floor, and a CCTV camera in every corner. The air was so cold I could see my breath. There were no windows, just one screen in front of the desk. It lit up when I sat down. No prompt, no welcome. Just a text file opened up. Subject file G12. Initiate behavior development simulation. Emotional markers. Curiosity. Isolation. Obedience. Keywords. Tooth parade. Quiet garden. The room that hears. Then the 3D model appeared. It wasn't like the cartoon characters on the upper floors. This one looked like a real child. A boy, maybe 7. Pale. Thin. Eyes too big. He blinked like he didn't know how. The uncanny part. His model breathed. You could see his chest rising and falling. And sometimes, just sometimes, he'd look away from the camera, like he was watching something behind me. The software told me to make him learn through visual example. That was the prompt. I clicked on the asset library. There were scenes. A room full of mannequins missing their mouths. A hallway filled with TV screens showing the same eye blinking over and over. A dentist's office with a chair replaced by a metal slab and what looked like restraints. A burning school bus. And then there were voice lines. Dozens of them, but not pre-recorded ones. They sounded like they were being generated live. Some were distorted children's voices. Others were robotic, or worse, inhuman, like someone trying to impersonate a child with no idea how kids actually speak. I remember one line that played on loop. If you bite your tongue, the voices won't crawl into your throat. I had no idea what they wanted from me, but the system kept telling me to complete the simulation. So, I made something. My first simulation. I set the boy model in the dentist scene, added soft music, a lullaby version of Twinkle Twinkle, added text on the screen that said, "The tooth parade is coming. Time to clean your secrets." Then I added a sequence where invisible hands lower the boy into the chair. He doesn't struggle. He just stares upward. The tools float into frame. Scalpel, clamp, syringe, and slowly begin to surround him. I clicked render. The screen flickered. The words "sent to subject" appeared. Then I heard it. A scream. Muffled. Not from the speakers. From behind the wall. I froze. Then a message popped up. Simulation effective. Subject response. Elevated obedience. Proceed with next file. Subject number 3. I saw him again. The guy who had the room 2 doors down from mine. Subject number 3. We weren't supposed to interact, but we'd passed each other in the hallway once. Shared a glance, a quick nod, like 2 prisoners acknowledging the other's sentence. One night, I woke up to shrieking, not yelling, not pain. This was pure horror. I ran to the hallway. Guards were already storming into his room. One of them was yelling. He reversed the feedback. He reversed the loop. I saw a flash through the open door. His screen had gone black, except for one thing. A clip of one of the cartoon characters, Uncle Belly, but with his face, screaming, crying, repeating the words, "I don't want to remember anymore. I want to be flat." They pulled him out, strapped to a gurney, blood leaking from his eyes. No one spoke about it afterward. His room was sealed shut with hazard tape. They burned his mattress. The upload room. They made me visit the upload chamber once. It was down another hallway, colder than the rest, with a keypad that required 2 guards to unlock. Inside, a massive server wall, red lights blinking like heart monitors, and in the middle of the room, this tall glass tank filled with fluid. Inside the tank was a kid, maybe 10 tubes in his arms. His eyes were open. He didn't blink, floating in place, silent. On the screen above the tank was a loop of one of the cartoons I'd made, the same one where Poppy finds the hole in the forest. Except this version had no sound, just static and one whispered line. The dirt tastes like bones when you smile at it. One of the techs told me, casually, like he was talking about the weather. They're not human anymore. We keep the good ones in the fluid. Their dreams code better in the sleep state. The message from the outside. One day, the screen on my desk glitched, just for a second. It flickered, and then a command prompt opened. Text typed itself across the screen. You need to wake up. They're not kids. They're grown-ups, shrunk down, exposed to the signal. Cartoons are their cage. Then it deleted itself. The camera above my bed spun wildly. An alarm went off. I didn't sleep for 3 days after that. The quiet garden. They took me there when I hit quota 10. A reward, they said. It was behind a steel door marked therapy. But there was no garden, just a massive concrete room with a dirt floor. In the center was a carousel, turning slowly, even though there was no power. On each horse was a screen playing different simulations, all silent. One of them was mine, Poppy again. Only this time, she turned to the screen and whispered, "You're one of us now, Ryan." I never typed my name in the system. That was when I knew. They weren't just feeding these elite kids creepy cartoons. They were making us into the content, turning our dreams, our memories, our nightmares into lessons for kids who weren't kids, who were products, lab-grown rich brats being trained like animals using pain, isolation, and coded trauma. And when we broke, they'd turn us into the next characters. I don't know how much longer I was down there before I made my escape attempt. But if you're reading this, stay off the dark web, stay out of the basement, and if anyone ever offers you money to make cartoons for special children, run. I remember the exact second I realized I was never supposed to leave. It wasn't some dramatic moment, no alarms blaring, no guy in a lab coat pointing a syringe at me. It was simple. I was brushing my teeth in the mirrored bathroom stall attached to my assigned room, and I looked up. My reflection blinked before I did, just a split second too soon. Then I noticed I had no toothbrush in the reflection. My reflection had something else in its hand, a plastic spoon. It looked back at me and smiled. That's when I stopped sleeping. By the end of week 4, I had completely lost any sense of what day it was. There were no clocks down there, no sunrise, no schedule. They'd changed the lights from fluorescent to this unnatural blue-green glow that made everyone's skin look corpse pale. They fed us once every 14 hours, exactly like we were lab rats on a timer. Except I started noticing something. They weren't feeding us food anymore. Not real food, at least. The meals came in unmarked silver pouches. No labels, no smell. Just this beige sludge that had the consistency of wet clay and tasted like rubber gloves. One time, subject number 9 said it reminded him of the water from the bottom of a trash can. He laughed when he said it, like he was trying to make it okay. The next day, his room was empty, not cleared out, just gone. There was no room number 9 anymore. The hallway skipped from 8 to 10, like they deleted the number. Even the guard's clipboard reflected it. The whole place rewrote itself, like a video game patch. That's when I knew something non-human was running this place. The red folder. The hallucinations started around the same time. I'd close my eyes, and see frames of my own animations playing behind my eyelids, but altered. Poppy's eyes were black voids. The forest she danced in was on fire. The hole in the ground was breathing. One night, I woke up and my fingernails were clogged with dirt. I hadn't been outside in weeks, but nothing, and I mean nothing, compared to what I found inside the cryo room. It started with the red folder. Every subject had access to the same animation software. We weren't allowed to browse the servers or dig around in the system. Everything was locked down. But when I finished my 17th simulation, I got a notification. You have unlocked category fee level clearance. View your assigned data cluster. A folder appeared on my screen. Red icon. No title. I clicked it. There was only one file inside. cryo_feed_cam7x.mp4. The cryo room. There was no sound, just a looping feed from a camera inside a massive concrete vault. Inside were dozens of vertical glass tanks, like oversized soda cans filled with amber liquid. They were all fogged up, but every so often, the condensation would clear just enough to see the faces inside. They weren't sleeping. They were awake. Some of them were kids. Others weren't. One woman looked like she'd been submerged for years. Her face was bloated. Her jaw was wide open. There was a breathing tube in her throat that pulsed in rhythm with a cartoon playing on the monitor outside her tank. One of mine. But here's the thing. These weren't subjects. They were animators. I recognized two of them from our first briefing weeks ago. These were the ones who had tried to escape, who stopped following the prompts, who stopped producing. This was what they did to us when we disobeyed. There was something worse. Tank number 12 was different. No body inside, just a lump, pale, featureless, floating. It looked like raw meat. No eyes, no limbs, just tissue. And from the center of it, there were wires, hundreds of them, feeding into the computer system. Under the feed, a name was scribbled. Archive source. The seed. The screen flickered. For just 1 second, a phrase appeared in blood-red text. It dreams the characters. You draw what it sees. The extraction room. I didn't mean to find it. I swear. I was wandering during my sanitation window. That's what they called our 10-minute bathroom break every 2 days. The guard assigned to me was dozing off, slumped in a chair with his taser in his lap. I slipped out, walked further than I ever had. I followed this low-frequency hum, almost like a heartbeat, slow, constant. It led me to a metal door with a biometric scanner. It was already slightly open. Inside was a surgery table, completely soaked in black fluid. Not blood, too thick, too oily. The walls were covered in what looked like diagrams of the human brain, overlaid with cartoon characters. Not our cartoons, Disney ones, Nickelodeon, PBS Kids, but they were drawn over with teeth, eyes, animal limbs, all warped. There was a camera in the corner, pointed directly at the table. A monitor showed Subject 11 on screen, watching a simulation I made last week. The table wasn't empty. It held a torso. Just a torso. No arms, no legs, no head. But it was breathing. Tubes in its lungs, feeding it something yellow. On its chest were eyes, stitched open, glued to tiny screens playing cartoons on loop. The lungs convulsed every time Puppy laughed. I swear to God, I saw its ribcage shiver when she whispered one of the lines. The longer you laugh, the less it hurts. I turned to leave, and that's when I saw my name on the wall. Ryan L. Simulation. Design number 717. B status. Effective value. High retention readiness for seating, 94%. The broadcast room. There was a room even lower than the basement. The broadcast room. I only made it in because subject number 4 slipped me his access badge before he walked into the burning elevator shaft. On purpose. He looked me dead in the eyes before he did it and said, "You need to see how far this goes." When you hear them laugh, it's not joy. It's the trigger. The broadcast room wasn't like the others. It looked like an abandoned television station. Rusty equipment, massive control panels, VHS players wired into modern hardware. The air was hot, suffocating, like standing inside a microwave. Every screen, every single one, was broadcasting our animations. Some were in different languages, some had subtitles, some were being translated in real time by AI voice mods. But here's the sickest part. I recognized the broadcasts. They were showing up on YouTube Kids, on TikTok, on Cocomelon playlists. They were being streamed on luxury hotel smart TVs, played during nap time in private elite schools across the globe. One stream was being projected in an underground bunker in North Korea. Another was airing in Dubai, where a room full of children in white robes sat in silence, watching a loop of Uncle Belly melting into a puddle, reforming as their teacher clapped along. We weren't making cartoons. We were producing sleeper codes, psychological malware, disguised as harmless content, crafted from pain, fed into the world. And the worst part, we weren't the first generation of workers. There were names scratched into the walls from decades ago. Subject 003 Robert, Seattle, 1992. Subject 012 Meichi, Hong Kong, 1986. Subject 031 Charlie, London, 1977. These experiments had been running for over 50 years. We were just the latest batch, the black tape. As I turned to leave the broadcast room, I saw a shelf full of VHS tapes, each labeled with a single word: guilt, silence, hunger, mother, school, smile. I pulled one out and shoved it in the old VCR. The footage, grainy, warped, sound distorted. It showed a classroom, empty except for a child-sized mannequin in each seat. At the front of the room was a teacher. No face, just a scribbled blur where their head should be. The teacher was saying something on loop. If they forget who they are, you can give them anything. Name them, shape them, teach them to obey. Then a phrase burned into the screen. This isn't content. This is construction. That's when I realized. These weren't cartoons. They were behavioral blueprints. And we weren't animators. We were extraction nodes, harvesters. They used our trauma, our subconscious, our nightmares, to program obedience into the next generation of elite-controlled humans. The elite don't raise kids. They manufacture them, and they don't send them to school. They send them down here to watch us scream. There are places that make your body react before your brain can catch up. Places that feel wrong before you even open the door. The birthday floor was one of those places. It wasn't listed on any of the facility's schematics, not labeled, not mentioned in our orientation, not even referenced in the encrypted files I pulled from the broadcast room servers. I only found it because the elevator skipped a floor one day. A glitch. A perfect, beautiful accident. I was headed back to level -6 when the elevator jerked, stuttered, and stopped on a floor that didn't exist. The panel just said, no number, no name, Just a single dash. The door creaked open slower than usual. No lights, just blackness, like someone poured ink into the air itself. And yet, I stepped out, like a sleepwalker, like I had no choice. The second I crossed the threshold, I felt it. Something was watching, but not with eyes, with memory. The party that never ends. Imagine a child's birthday party. Now imagine it was recorded on a VHS tape from 1983, buried in the dirt for a decade, and played back through a TV made entirely of skin. That's what it felt like. The walls were decorated with balloons, gray, deflated, twitching slightly. Party hats sat on rotting tables, twisted into spires. The air was thick with the scent of plastic, burnt frosting, and ammonia. The room was massive, like an old gymnasium, but the lights were low, and the further I walked, the more the party repeated. Same decorations, same tables, same rotten cake. Over and over, until I saw them. The party guests. Dozens of them, maybe more, all wearing birthday hats, sitting motionless in plastic chairs, arranged in a perfect circle. None of them moved, none of them blinked, but every single one was smiling. Horrible, forced, wide-eyed grins that stretched too far into their cheeks. They looked cut out of something, not born, not real, grown in grief. In the center of the room, on a crumbling stage made of wood and bone, was a child-sized marionette. Wires dangled from its joints like veins. Its body was dressed in a birthday outfit, ripped sleeves, stained with what looked like old oil or blood. The puppet had no face, just a mirror. When I looked into it, I saw my own reflection, but I wasn't blinking, and I was smiling. The game they play. A projector flickered on above the stage. No sound, just grainy footage. A real kid this time, tied to a chair, covered in balloons, duct tape over their mouth. Their eyes were wide, bloodshot, but no tears. Behind them stood a group of adults in business suits. No faces, blurred like static. Their hands were on the kids' shoulders. Then words appeared on the screen, typed out slowly, like an old typewriter. Happy birthday, Subject P. You've been chosen to smile forever. Then the child on screen exploded, not from force, but like a balloon. Their skin peeled away in layers, silently, as if they were made of wrapping paper. Underneath, nothing, just confetti. The puppet moved. It raised one wire arm, pointed at me, and a speaker crackled to life. Do you want your gift? The voice wasn't robotic. It wasn't a recording. It was my own voice, played backward. Then the doors locked behind me. The candle test. From the ceiling, a giant birthday cake descended, like a prop in a school play, but soaked in black liquid. Dozens of candles were stuck in it, all flickering erratically. A monitor on the wall lit up. It showed a live feed of a real child, strapped into a medical chair somewhere else in the facility. Tubes in their neck, wires in their scalp, breathing slowly. Text on the screen said, "For every candle you blow out, the subject loses a memory. If you blow out all of them, they forget how to feel pain." I didn't believe it at first, so I blew out one. On the monitor, the child's pupils dilated. They started screaming, not from pain, from confusion. They screamed the word "Mom" over and over until it stopped meaning anything. Another candle. They stopped screaming. They just sat there, blank, gone. By the fifth candle, the child was drooling, eyes unfocused. The final candle wouldn't go out. I tried everything, blowing, waving, even trying to tear it off the cake. It just kept burning. Then I looked at the screen. The child was gone. The chair was empty, but there was a new cartoon model uploaded into my simulation software later that day. A new character, Candle Boy, smiling, head twitching, one voice line only. If you forget who you were, I can be you instead. The real guests, I ran, down corridors I didn't recognize, through rooms that rearranged themselves behind me. I ran until I couldn't breathe, and finally found a door. Not a war door, a house door, like from a suburban home. Bright red, doorknob made of something wet and organic. I opened it. Inside was a living room, like out of a 90s sitcom. Couch, lamp, TV playing static, and 4 people sitting around a birthday cake. They weren't mannequins. They were alive. Real. I recognized their faces from news articles, from social media. A missing YouTuber who vanished in 2021. A child actor who retired early after a public breakdown. A tech CEO's son who died in a boating accident. And a politician's daughter who was homeschooled for mental health reasons. All sitting, eyes locked on the static screen, cake untouched. Their mouths moved in unison. This is where we live now. In between the colors. The cartoons told us how I backed away slowly, but the walls began to melt. Literally. Wallpaper sliding down like skin. The floor collapsed into pixels and reformed into a playroom. Only now the walls were lined with teeth. Cartoon mouths, singing, over and over. It's your birthday. It's your day. You don't get to run away. The child that isn't one. When I finally found the elevator again, it wasn't working, but there was someone waiting inside it. A child, dressed in all black, neat hair, shoes polished, face too still. He looked at me and said, "They let you see the party. That means you're almost done." I asked who he was. He smiled, lips too thin, eyes hollow. "I was the first candle. I don't burn anymore. I just teach them how to hold the match." Then he melted into the floor. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in my room. Only, it wasn't my room. It was a replica of the room I had as a child, down to the cracked SpongeBob poster on the wall and the stain on the carpet from when I threw up watching The Ring in 6th grade. There was a sticky note on the monitor. "Final project. You. Show them what you are." I checked the animation software. Only one asset available. Subject, Ryan L. Emotion, despair. Keyword, compliance environment, the playroom. And that's when it hit me. The cartoons I made weren't the final product. I was. My memories, my trauma, my fears, they were feeding it, turning me into a blueprint. My life was being encoded, one simulation at a time. Every time I broke, it learned. Every time I cried, it smiled. Every time I tried to escape, it drew something new. That was when I decided to burn it all. But first, I had to get to the server heart, where the seed lives, where the elite access the feed directly, where they watch us watching them. I want to tell you how I escaped. I want to tell you there was some brave moment, some last-minute act of defiance, a dramatic escape through vents, or a final punch thrown before the elevator doors closed. But that's not what happened. That's not how you leave the playroom. You don't leave because you're strong. You don't leave because you're lucky. You leave because they want you to. They let you go when you're no longer you. And by the time I reached the server heart, I wasn't. Inside the server heart, there's a hallway, deeper than any other level, deeper than cryo, deeper than extraction, deeper than the place they kept Candle Boy and the mirror puppet, and the room's lined with teeth. It's not marked. You only get access when they know you've broken enough. I didn't find it. The door found me. It opened one night while I was mid-simulation. No noise, no lights, just opened. A message flashed on my monitor. Access granted. Final upload pending. Enter the heart. Make your mark. I stepped into blackness. There were no walls, just cables. Thick, wet cables, like intestines made from wires. They pulsed under my feet, wrapped around my ankles, tightened the further I walked. The air felt alive, like breathing through someone else's lungs. At the center was the core, a sphere the size of a car, suspended in a cage of mirrors. Not a machine. Not exactly. It was organic. It was made of faces. Hundreds of faces, melted together. Eyes wide open, mouths stitched into forced smiles. I saw subject number 3. I saw Candor Boy. I saw myself. Some of the faces were crying. Some were whispering. Some were laughing. But their eyes were full of hate. The surface of the heart moved like it was breathing. And from the mirrors, something stepped out. Not a person, not a worker, not a child. It was the thing behind it all, the voice in my blood. It didn't speak with sound. It used my memories, my thoughts. It played my childhood birthday party in reverse on the mirrors. It showed me my mother crying after my dad left. It showed me the first time I watched Tom and Jerry and laughed so hard I choked. Then it twisted those things. It showed me my mother sewing a mouth onto my cartoon character's face. It showed my father filming me while I slept, whispering script notes into my ear. It showed Tom and Jerry peeling each other's skin off while a child clapped in the background. Then it whispered in my brain, "They gave you cartoons so you wouldn't notice the cage. And then, you are content now." The final project, the heart asked me to upload myself. It gave me a simulation I didn't design. The title screen said, "Playtime with Ryan." The main character was me, wireframe, skinless, twitching, voice lines pulled from every recording they ever took of me, even the ones when I was sleeping, even the ones from before I got there. The game loop was simple. The elite child watches Ryan wake up in a locked room. Ryan begins to remember his real life. The child chooses which memory to delete first. Ryan begs. The child chooses new behaviors to install. When Ryan breaks, he becomes a cartoon. Then the cycle restarts. Every frame of the simulation felt real. Not animated, not 3D rendered. It was me. It was my soul in a .mp4 file. Every time I blinked, the child watching was changing, growing colder, smiling wider, losing more of themselves, and gaining more of me. Then I saw the scoreboard. At the top of the screen, top users. Number 1, Ezra R, Zurich. Number 2, Florence K, Dubai. Number 3, Raphael D, Private Island 31. B, these weren't usernames. These were the elite kids, the ones with custom-built schools, private satellites, legal invisibility. They weren't being taught by these cartoons. They were feeding on us. The unrendered room. There was one last room, behind the heart. It looked incomplete, a void. Nothing had been textured, just white space, grid lines, a broken cursor blinking in the corner. But on the far wall, if you could call it a wall, there were pictures, photos, of you, me, everyone, torn from social media accounts, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, old DeviantArt pages, even outdated MySpace profiles, each one labeled with a behavior code. Larissa M, anxious type, dreams in blue, teachable, Kyle B, high pain retention, convert to father model, Ashwin D, suppressed anger, possible weaponization. They weren't just using animators, they were cataloging everyone, every single person who ever watched the wrong cartoon, clicked a bad link, downloaded a game from the wrong subreddit, or posted art that resembled the characters. You don't have to be inside the factory to be processed. They reach through screens. The playroom is everywhere. The escape. There's only one way out. You have to become something they can't predict. They know how you walk, talk, breathe, cry. But if you break yourself on purpose, do something no program can model, they lose control. So I bit down on a wire until my teeth shattered. I screamed every word I knew backwards in a made-up language. I drew a cartoon character with no face and no behavior cues. I wrote a file that just said, "This is not for you." And I burned it into every server on the Hearts network. The lights went red. The faces screamed. The wires began to spasm and eat themselves. I don't remember how I got out. I remember vomiting pixels. I remember my hands feeling like glass. I remember being pulled out of the screen by something that looked like me with no skin. And then I woke up. Now I'm not in the factory anymore. But I don't think I'm in the world either. I see animations glitch on YouTube sometimes, just for a frame, a flicker. I see my face in the reflections of phones. My voice comes out of other people's TikToks when the audio distorts. I think I'm still being streamed. I think you're watching me right now. If you've read this far, check your recommended feed. Check the background noise in that looping cartoon for your cousin. Look closely at the eyes of the character. Do they blink too early? Do they look like they know your name? Then it's already too late, because Playroom never ends. You just become the next game. And the elite kids, they've just picked up their tablets, and they're choosing who to be next. End of transmission. I was live streaming an abandoned asylum for views. A dark web user joined the chat and started describing what was behind me. Yo, what's up Reddit? First post here, but I had to get this off my chest. Like, I don't even care if you all think I'm crazy. I know what I saw. I lived it. I'm still trying to sleep at night without picturing that thing's face. I'm a small-time content creator. Like, really small. Maybe 2,300 followers on TikTok, couple hundred on Instagram, and a dead YouTube channel. I started back in 2021 when I thought I'd be famous by 20. I'm 23 now, broke, living with my cousin in a 2-bedroom apartment in a shady part of Jersey. I do a lot of urban exploration content. You know, abandoned malls, old tunnels, empty amusement parks, stuff like that. Low effort, but people eat it up, especially when it's spooky. Add a little creepy background music. Title it something like Ghost Caught on Camera at Abandoned Six Flags, and boom, 20,000 views if the algorithm feels generous. But I messed up. I got greedy. I wanted the numbers. I wanted a story that would blow up. And now I can't sleep with the lights off. How it started. It was a regular Friday, September 6th, 2025. I was bored, scrolling Twitter, or sorry, X, still not used to that dumb name, when I saw a tweet blow up about an old asylum in upstate New York, Briarcliff Asylum. The tweet had like 150,000 likes. Apparently, someone broke in and filmed some eerie footage, doors closing on their own, flickering lights, all that cliche horror stuff. But the catch? No electricity for decades. The building's been decommissioned since 1987, full on condemned. One of those places the state pretends doesn't exist, so they don't have to clean up the asbestos or whatever. I dug a little deeper and found out the spot was actually known back in the early 2000s on Reddit. Old Creepypasta threads. One even claimed Briarcliff was used for off-the-record experiments in the late 60s. Stuff involving sleep deprivation, sound torture, that kind of crap. Naturally, my dumbass thought, perfect content for the Halloween season. So I packed up my gear. Basic stuff. Flashlight, portable charger, phone gimbal, GoPro strapped to my chest. I told my followers I'd be doing a live overnight challenge at the asylum. Title: Spending 12 hours alone in a haunted asylum. Live. 100% real. I even made a cheesy TikTok teaser with a spooky voiceover and drone footage. I definitely didn't shoot myself. Getting there. The asylum is like 40 minutes outside Albany, tucked behind some overgrown forest and rusted gates. I got there around 9:30 p.m., right when the sun dipped and that blue hour glow hit. Already spooky as hell. The building looked like it was breathing in the shadows. Graffiti all over. Tags like "Help Me" and "She's Still in the Walls" sprayed across shattered windows. Classic teenage vandal crap. I set up outside, did my intro, cracked a few jokes to lighten the mood, and started the live. Had maybe 80 viewers at first. Some familiar usernames popped up. GhostDog98. This is Dumb LOL. Rainy Girl X. You Better Not Die Fry. Urban Explorer. Wait, is that the place with the disappearing patient files? It was chill at first. I did a walkthrough of the first floor. Just moldy walls, broken beds, and patient files scattered across the floor. Real vintage horror vibes. But around 11:17 p.m., things started getting weird. The chat turns dark. I was exploring what used to be the cafeteria. I pointed my flashlight at a toppled vending machine when I noticed a username I'd never seen before pop into the chat. Greater than EYESINTHEDARK. All caps. No profile picture. Just the default grey silhouette. And they typed, "Don't go down the stairs. He doesn't like it when people go down there." I paused. Thought it was just some troll trying to spook me. I even laughed it off on stream. But then they posted again. "I can see you. Your flashlight's flickering." That got under my skin. Because my flashlight was flickering. Like right as they said it. Not before. Not after. Exactly when they typed it. I said, "Okay, weird timing." Haha, you got me. But the chat went dead quiet. Nobody else was typing. Not even my usual trolls. Just one message. "Behind you." Don't scream. I spun around so fast I almost dropped my phone. Nothing. Just the rotting cafeteria. Same busted chairs and broken trays. But here's the thing. There was a tray on the floor that hadn't been there before. And it was wet. Like someone had just put food on it. The little corner still had a piece of moldy bread on it. It smelled like rot and bleach. I asked the chat, "Did anyone see that before?" Nothing, except for ice in the dark. He's watching now. You woke him up. That's when the stream cut out. I was about to say something back when my stream glitched. Not like a lag. I mean, it cut to static. Like full-on snow screen. My whole phone. I bugged, and the flashlight died. I smacked it a few times. Nothing. I switched to the GoPro on my chest. Red light said it was still recording. I stood still in the dark, just listening, and I swear to God I could hear breathing. Not mine. Something behind the walls, slow and wet, like someone gasping through a straw. Then I heard the stairs creak. You ever hear something that sounds too close? Like it shouldn't be next to you, but it is. It was like that. Something was moving downstairs. Heavy footsteps, not random animal scurries. Actual footsteps. Pacing, stopping, then pacing again. I turned the GoPro toward the basement stairwell and took one slow step forward. That's when the chat reconnected for like 3 seconds. Just long enough for EYESINTHEDARK to type, "You shouldn't have come alone." Then the screen went black. Again. The thing about fear, real fear, is that it doesn't hit all at once. It's not a scream. It's not even a reaction. It's a pause. A stillness so unnatural, your body forgets what it's doing. Your heart beats loud, but your brain whispers quieter than ever. And in that quiet, you realize something horrible. You're not alone. When the stream cut out for the second time, the basement door was maybe 15 feet in front of me. I was still in the cafeteria, surrounded by overturned chairs and broken tile, but I could see the narrow staircase leading into total blackness. And even though I couldn't see it, I knew something was standing just out of view, halfway down the steps. It wasn't the breathing anymore. That had stopped. This time, it was the sound of nails, fingernails, dragging slowly across the old iron railing, not in a rush, like it wanted me to hear. I reached for the GoPro, still strapped to my chest, and double-tapped it. Red light was blinking, still recording. I turned on my phone flashlight and inched toward the stairs. The beam flickered again, just like before. I aimed it downward and whispered to the camera, "If I die in here, please don't let this footage get deleted." I wasn't joking. It didn't even feel like a joke. It felt like I was already a corpse narrating my own autopsy. The basement, the stairs were narrow, probably only wide enough for one person at a time. Water dripped from the ceiling in thick, constant plops. It smelled like rust and mold and something else I can only describe as old breath, like the air had been held in someone's lungs for 50 years and just got exhaled again. I took each step like I was stepping on glass, until finally I reached the bottom, and instantly I knew something was wrong. The blueprints I had found online, the old layout of Briarcliff Asylum, said the basement had 3 main rooms, storage, furnace, and morgue. But where I was standing, the hallway stretched into darkness in both directions. No doors, just a black hallway lined with pipes, like something out of a Soviet bunker. Concrete walls, no markings, and that same scratching sound echoing faintly through the pipes above. I picked a direction and walked. Each step echoed like I was stomping through someone's ribcage. I passed an old hospital gurney where the wheels rusted in place, dried red smears across the metal. It looked like it had been dragged sideways against the wall, violently, leaving grooves in the brick, like claws had been involved. I filmed everything. My GoPro caught it all. But then something happened that I still can't explain. As I turned a corner, I found a door that shouldn't have existed. It was perfectly clean, bright white, new, like someone had just installed it. It had a glowing red keypad next to it, and no handle. I stood there in total disbelief. This door was not on any blueprints. It looked like it belonged in a high-tech facility, not a rotting 80s asylum. And then my phone buzzed. Somehow, I had a notification, even though I was deep underground with zero service. It was a message from the TikTok Live. The username, EYESINTHEDARK. You've seen too much. Enter and understand, or leave and forget. I stared at the door, heart pounding, and then the keypad lit up on its own. 4 digits, blinking red, waiting. I don't know why I did it. I still don't know how I knew the code, but I typed 0-6-1-3. It beeped. Green light. The door slid open with a low hiss. Inside the room. At first I thought it was just another hallway, but the walls were glass, and behind that glass there were rooms, like observation rooms in a lab, each one dimly lit with a single overhead bulb, and in each room something was strapped to a chair. I use the word something because I swear what I saw in those rooms wasn't human anymore. Room 1, a woman with no mouth, just skin, as if her lips had been sealed shut from birth. Her eyes were pure white, no pupils, and her hands were stitched together like mittens made of skin. She was rocking back and forth in her chair, whispering something that somehow made it through the glass, even without a mouth. Room 2, a man with wires coming out of his back like spider legs, plugged into the walls. His head kept twitching side to side, violently, like he was being electrocuted, but his eyes were locked on me, following me, no matter where I moved. Room 3, an empty chair, but the walls and ceiling were covered in scratch marks, long deep gouges that had torn through the steel plating, and a single sentence written in what looked like blood across the wall. He let me out. There were more rooms. I didn't look in all of them. I couldn't. My stomach was turning inside out. I felt like I was going to throw up my lungs. I started backing away, whispering, "Nope. No, no, no. This is staged. This is fake. This is a set." That's when the lights flickered off, and the door slammed shut behind me. Trapped. I was locked in that glass corridor, surrounded by things that shouldn't exist. My GoPro was still rolling. I looked right into the lens and said, "If anyone finds this, I didn't do this. I didn't make this up. Please, don't come here." Then the intercom turned on. Yeah, a working intercom in a building with no power, and I heard a voice. Male. Calm. Cold. "Patient 237 has left containment. Please remain still." He detects movement. I froze. The room started to vibrate softly, not from machinery, from something big moving nearby. From the far end of the corridor, I saw a figure appear, crawling on all fours, naked, its limbs bent the wrong way, like a human spider. Its face was covered with some kind of leather mask, but its jaw hung open below it, broken and unhinged. It was smiling, but not at me. It was smelling the air. Then it did the worst thing imaginable. It stood up, tall, too tall. Shoulders nearly touched the ceiling. It tilted its head and pointed directly at me. And then it sprinted. Not ran. Sprinted, like it had no bones, just rage and speed and hunger. I turned and ran too, screamed louder than I ever have in my life, slammed into the door at the end of the hallway, punching the keypad with both fists. No power. It was getting closer. I turned back once, just for a second, and I wish I hadn't. It had stopped inches from the glass, tapping it with one bloody finger. It wasn't trying to kill me. It was studying me, like it remembered me. And then the lights went out again. The escape. I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke up, I was back in the cafeteria. My GoPro was gone. My phone was dead. The only thing next to me was that rusty hospital tray again, with the same moldy bread, except this time there was something carved into it. 4 letters. L-I-V-E. I stumbled out of that place before the sun came up. Didn't look back. Didn't answer my phone for 2 days. When I finally turned it on, I had one new video in my drafts folder on TikTok. I never recorded it. It was a 37-second clip of me, asleep on the floor, with something standing behind me, swaying back and forth in the dark. I haven't posted it. I don't even know how it got there. I didn't have service. My GoPro was gone. But that thing, whatever it was, it looked at the camera at the very end and smiled. But after what I saw next, you might wish I never told you. I wish I could say I moved on, that I got out, went home, and pretended it never happened, that I deleted the TikTok draft, burned my clothes, and tried therapy or religion, or something that people in horror movies do when they survive Act 1. But I didn't move on, because the footage came back, and it brought something with it. The drive home. When I left Briarcliff, I drove for 2 hours straight in silence, hands glued to the wheel, the sun rising behind me like it was trying to chase the night off my skin. I didn't play music. I didn't check my mirrors. I didn't even blink unless I had to. My eyes kept catching glimpses of things in the trees, pole hands clinging to branches, faces behind road signs, a shadow sprinting across the highway on all fours just out of reach of my headlights. I kept telling myself it was sleep deprivation, adrenaline, shock. But deep down, I knew I hadn't just seen something in that asylum. I had been marked by it. Back in Jersey, I crashed at my cousin David's place, told him it was a failed shoot, didn't go into detail, just said my camera got stolen and I was feeling sick. He handed me a bottle of Gatorade and told me to sleep it off. I lay in bed for 2 days. No phone, no TikTok, no GoPro, just me and my pounding skull. I had dreams, not the kind that fade when you wake up, but the ones that leave bruises, real bruises, on my arms, my legs, my neck, finger-shaped. In one dream, I was back in the hallway. Only this time, the glass rooms were open. Every subject had escaped, and they were watching me from the shadows as I walked. Their mouths were all sewn shut, except mine. I woke up screaming, and the Gatorade bottle was cracked in half on the floor, like I'd smashed it in my sleep. The draft was gone. Or, I thought. On day 3, I finally powered on my phone. TikTok opened by itself. No joke. It opened on its own. My screen went black for about 5 seconds, then flashed to the drafts folder. The draft video from the asylum, the one I never posted, was gone. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't, because now there were 4 new drafts in this place, all unlabeled, no thumbnails, just gray static previews. I clicked the first one. It was a screen recording of my own TikTok profile. Only, it wasn't mine. It had my username, my bio, my profile picture, but the content, completely different. The videos were all dark, shaky, all recorded in the same underground hallway I'd seen at the asylum. The captions were gibberish, binary code, long strings of numbers, weird phrases like, "He still has your breath. You were always the 238th. She's watching you through your cousin's eyes." I backed out. Opened the second draft. It was security camera footage of me, sitting on the couch in David's living room. From the ceiling angle, I was asleep, mouth open, twitching, and behind me, not touching me, not making a sound, was something tall, pale, and bent at the spine, crawling slowly behind the couch. It stopped when I shifted in my sleep, then slowly reached one hand forward and brushed the back of my neck. Frame by frame, I watched as my skin blistered where it touched me. I backed out again, opened the third. Video unavailable. The third draft was corrupted, or at least that's what I thought at first. But I pressed play anyway. It was black, just audio, wet, sloshing sounds, like someone walking barefoot through raw meat. Then a voice, male, calm, same voice I'd heard on the intercom. Patient 237 has shown signs of compliance, preparing the next phase. More static, then a scream. Mine, not recorded, live. The sound wasn't pre-recorded. It was real-time audio of me screaming. I could hear myself shouting things I hadn't said yet. Get it off me. He's in the ceiling. They put her in my skin. I can feel her moving. I dropped my phone. Legit threw it across the room. The screen didn't crack. It shattered, like someone had smashed it from the inside out. David came running in. Bro, what the hell? I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry. I just pointed at the wall behind him, because it was bleeding. A slow, thin line of black liquid was dripping from the ceiling corner, sliding down the drywall like ink from a fountain pen. David turned and stared at it. Then, no lie, he just nodded, like he expected it, like he'd seen it before. Then he said something that chilled my bones. You brought it back, didn't you? The fourth draft. I didn't want to look. I swear I didn't. But my phone turned on again around 3:33 a.m. on its own and forced itself into full brightness. The draft opened by itself. No title. Just a blinking red timestamp. Recording. Live feed. Cellar 6B. The footage showed a camera moving through a dimly lit basement hallway. Not the one I'd been in before. This one had people. Maybe 6 or 7. All in hospital gowns. Eyes stitched. Mouths sealed. Moving slowly like they were on strings. They stopped walking and turned in sync toward the camera, like they sensed it. And then the camera turned. The lens pointed to a mirror on the wall, and standing behind the camera was me. Only, not me. The version in the video was missing its face, just skin, no features, like someone had erased everything with a hot iron, but I could still hear breathing, heavy, labored, like it was enjoying the pain. That's when the video ended, just cut to black. Then one final message popped up on screen. White text, no sound. You post or they die. The upload. I didn't sleep. I didn't think. I just sat there, hands shaking, waiting for the next move. I didn't even know who they were, until my cousin didn't wake up the next morning. He was curled up on the couch, eyes wide open, blood trailing down his temples, like he'd been listening to something through his skull all night long. His hands were clutching his phone, frozen mid-type. I pried it out of his fingers. He had a message on screen, a TikTok DM from EYESINTHEDARK. Too slow. Next time, don't ignore the drafts. That's when I gave up. I posted one of the videos, the first one, the hallway with the observation rooms, the one that looked almost fake if you didn't know better. Captioned it. Found footage from a failed collab, all staged. Enjoy the scares. It got 1.2 million views overnight. Comments were wild. Best ARG I've seen this year. How'd you make the lights flicker like that? Is this from a new horror game? Bro, this ain't fake. Pause at 106. Something blinks inside the wall. But the worst comment. From a new account. No followers. No profile picture. Ice in the dark. Verified badge. Somehow. Thank you for feeding them. They were starving. And now, I hear them. Not outside. Inside. In the walls. In the pipes. In the static of the TV. I hear the fingernails scraping the drain at night. I hear my cousin's voice behind my bathroom mirror, even though we buried him last week. And my phone. It started filming on its own. Drafts I never made. Videos of me asleep, with my eyes open. There's something I need to tell you. And it's not a metaphor, not a stylistic horror YouTube voiceover, not some spooky pasta meant to give you chills before bed. This is real, and once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once you see it, it sees you. So this is your last chance to scroll. This is where it stops being fun. This is where it becomes infection. Still here? Okay. You asked for this. The file that didn't exist. It started 4 days after I posted the first video. The one I claimed was just an ARG. It hit 3.5 million views. Even got reposted by some horror channels on YouTube, with thumbnails like real or fake. Urban Explorer finds secret facility in abandoned asylum. Comments flooded in. Most were people thinking it was fake. A few tagged others. Some were dissecting every second of footage, doing those weird freeze frame analyses where they catch faces hidden in the corners or whispering audio buried in the background. But there was one comment that stood out. It had no likes, no replies. It was buried near the bottom, like something was trying to keep it hidden. The username? Where your face goes. The comment? There's a sixth room. You didn't show it, but it remembers you. I tried to brush it off, but it hit too close, because there was something I hadn't shown anyone. A piece of corrupted GoPro footage that wouldn't open, not even when I dragged it into Premiere, DaVinci, VLC, or even tried decoding it raw in Audacity. The file was called blankroom6.move. I didn't name it that. I never saw that sixth room, not consciously, but my nightmares had been bleeding black ever since. And every night, the same dream. A door, pure white, no handle, just a single word carved into it with a burned fingernail. I-N, the room that shouldn't be real. I finally got the file open, and I wish to God I hadn't. I used a cracked Russian video editor from the dark web, the kind that comes bundled with warnings in languages you've never seen before. Some of the letters literally moving on the screen like they were alive. When the file finally played, it showed a different hallway. Not like the clean lab glass rooms I'd filmed earlier. This one was rotting. Wooden walls warped with breathing mold, the floor covered in water and old teeth. The camera was pointed down, like I'd dropped it, but it was still recording. Every few seconds, you'd see a foot drag across the floor. My foot. Only, I wasn't wearing shoes, and my skin was wrong, like it had been stretched too tight and stitched back together with wire. There was no sound, just this faint mechanical whirring in the background, almost like a dialysis machine. Slow, wet, pumping. Then the camera tilted up, and there it was, room 6. The door had no hinges, just pulsing, breathing meat wrapped in black tubing, like intestines stapled into drywall. And in the center was an eye, embedded in the muscle, looking directly at the lens. It blinked. The footage went static for 5 seconds. Then something happened that still makes my stomach twist like wet rope. The surgery. The footage cut to a different angle, like a security cam, but it wasn't pointed at the hallway anymore. It was inside room 6. There was a table, a long cold slab, stainless steel, stained yellow and red. I was on it. Or what was left of me. Half my face was removed, not slashed, but peeled, carefully, like they were trying to preserve the skin. My left arm was missing below the elbow, but the bones were still moving, twitching like they hadn't gotten the message yet. There were hands working on me, but no one there. Just the impression of gloves in the air, lifting tools, inserting long needles into my neck, slowly threading wires under my skin. The worst part, I was awake. My eyes were wide open, blood pouring down my cheeks like tears, my mouth sewn shut, but vibrating like I was screaming on the inside. Then the camera zoomed in, on my chest, carved into my sternum with perfect surgical symmetry, with the words, "She's inside you now." Then the feed cut, not to black, not to static, to TikTok, live. The camera was showing my phone screen. It was streaming from inside my camera roll. All my personal videos, my saved drafts, my deleted messages, every secret I thought was gone, being shown to millions. The caption, host acquired. Welcome, 237 the new followers. I gained 60,000 followers in under 10 hours. Verified accounts followed me. Brands started DMing me. I got a collab request from a major YouTuber known for haunted content. It looked like I'd made it, but every follower request came with a message, the same message. Where is room 6? Let us in. Post the others. They weren't fans. They weren't real. They were waiting. And then things got worse. David's body wasn't empty. You remember my cousin David, right? The one who died on the couch, with black fluid leaking from the ceiling above him. I lied when I said we buried him, because he got up. 3 days after he died, I heard shuffling in the kitchen. I thought maybe it was just me, until I saw the fridge open, and David, or what was left of him, was standing there, shirtless, spine sticking out of his back like a zipper, eyes sewn shut, and teeth, not his teeth, clattering in his mouth like a jar full of pennies. He turned toward me and said, in that same calm intercom voice, Patient 237 failed to upload part 4. Secondary host activated. Then he started laughing, but not like a person, like a glitch, like a corrupted audio file of someone trying to laugh but choking on static and blood. I ran. I didn't fight. I'm not a hero. I left him there, but he followed me, and now every mirror shows him instead of me. The final draft. Tonight, I received a new draft. I didn't film it. It's not even a video. It's a live feed of my future. It shows me lying on the same metal table. The camera slowly zooms in on my face, or what's left of it. My skin is stretched tight. My lips are gone. My eyes are wide open. Inside my mouth is another face, slowly pushing itself out like a parasite being born. It looks like David, but it smiles with my teeth. The timestamp on the video is September 13th, 2025, 2 days from now. The caption, host termination begins at 3:33 a.m. The top comment, ice in the dark, start streaming, or we will. This story doesn't end when I stop writing, because somewhere in your drafts, a new video just appeared. You didn't make it, but it's yours now. And it starts with you opening a door and someone behind you whispering, "Welcome to room 6. It's already inside. Smile. You're live. The world you know isn't real. You think your phone is yours. You think your memories are private. You think you're reading this, but you're not. You're being fed this because you're next. 3:33 a.m. That was the time marked in the final draft. September 13th, 2025. 3:33 a.m. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I didn't leave my apartment. Not that it would have mattered. At 3:10 a.m., the power went out. Not just in my apartment, the whole block. Sirens cut out halfway through their echo. Dogs started barking and then choked, like their throats collapsed in on themselves, mid-howl. My phone vibrated, not once, 17 times. Each vibration sent a crack up the screen like a spiderweb. The screen turned on by itself and opened TikTok. No app icon, no splash screen, just straight into the camera. It wasn't showing me. It was showing room 6. But this time, it wasn't a recording. It was live. The teeth wall. The room had changed. It was no longer just a slab and a door. It had grown. The walls were no longer brick or concrete. They were made of teeth. Thousands of human teeth, jutting out like scales, yellowed and cracked, with gums that twitched and bled when the camera moved too fast. The floor was a face. One massive human face, stretched tight like canvas over the concrete. Its lips sewn open, its eyes rolled back, and its nostrils flaring with each of my breaths. The room was breathing in sync with me. Then the stream tilted. The camera dropped. It landed at an angle. I saw my own feet walk into frame, bare, skinless, bones exposed and pulsing, my calves stitched with black thread, with something squirming under the skin, trying to chew its way out. The stream had comments. They were coming in too fast to read. Thousands of usernames, all caps, no profile pictures, just strings of numbers, repeating over and over, 237, 237, then one message, from a verified account. Ice in the dark. Smile. They love when you smile. The procedure. The light flickered in the room, and I felt a burning in my back, like my spine was unzipping from the inside. I screamed, not out loud. My mouth wouldn't open. My jaw had locked itself shut, like it knew what was coming and wanted no part of it. The room filled with that mechanical whirring again, the kind I heard in the earlier footage, like a hospital ventilator made from wet bones. From the ceiling, invisible hands descended, not metaphors, real hands, but they weren't there. You could see their outlines only when they passed in front of the teeth walls, like smudges in reality, like fingerprints on your eyes. They held tools, not scalpels, not scissors, things that hummed, things that screamed, things that had been alive once, but were now just shaped like instruments. They started at my feet. They peeled me, slow, upward, not a slice, a pull, like unwrapping a person from the inside out. I felt my skin slide off like a coat made of regret. My nerves didn't go numb. They woke up. Every one of them had its own voice. Every one of them screamed its own name. I saw my reflection in a mirror of blood on the floor. There was a second face under mine, and it was smiling. Visitors. The room wasn't empty anymore. 6 chairs, 6 figures. Each one was me. Not lookalikes, not doppelgangers. Me, from different points in time. One from the asylum hallway. One from my childhood bedroom with my 6th grade hoodie. One from the time I broke my ankle in 2019. One from the future, older, eyes burned shut, teeth sharpened. one with no skin, just red muscles twitching with breath, and one who wasn't moving, still, staring, hollow. They all spoke at once. The host resists. The host delays. Begin the ingestion. What you need to know, everything from here on, is a warning, because you're probably wondering how I'm writing this, how I'm uploading this, how I'm even alive after what I've just described. That's the worst part. I'm not. I didn't survive. I just became part of the system. This isn't a Reddit post. This is a draft saved in your phone, waiting to be uploaded, because you read it, because you scrolled past part 1, part 2, part 3, and now you've let it in. Room 6 doesn't exist in one location. Room 6 is a digital infection, a piece of code, a live feed parasite that hides in trending audio, drafts, corrupted footage, glitches in your gallery. Every time you swipe on your For You page and hear the wrong sound, you open a door. You don't even realize it. TikTok algorithm ritual. Want to know what it really is? The algorithm. It's not a machine. It's a ritual. Every scroll is a chant. Every like is a blood offering. Every comment feeds ice in the dark. They use faces as passwords, voices as keys, and creators as sacrifices. The trending page is a digital altar, and every viral post is just a container. The final comment. They made me watch my body walk out of the room, skinned, hollow, wearing my smile like a costume. He's out there now. He's the one posting this. I'm still in room 6. I'm the face in the teeth wall now. The one you'll see in your camera next time it glitches and you catch something behind your reflection for just a second too long. I'll be whispering, because I remember you. You've been watching me this whole time. You just didn't know the camera was facing both directions. You are now patient 238. Welcome. We hope you'll stream soon. Draft saved. 3:33 a.m. scheduled. Recording now. Smile. You're live. A new internet challenge called the Soul Seed is trending. It starts with a link to a dark web garden you can't leave. Disclaimer: I don't know who's still out there doing this challenge, but if someone sends you a link to something called the Soul Seed Garden, do not click it. I've seen what it does. I've lived it. I'm still living it. This isn't some dumb pasta for karma. This is a warning. I can't go to the police. No one believes me. But maybe someone here will. Part 1. A weird link in a normal group chat. What's up, Reddit? Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm not really into creepy stuff, or dark web conspiracy theories, or any of that. Honestly, I'm a 23-year-old dude who works part-time at Starbucks and spends way too much time scrolling on TikTok and Discord when I'm bored. If I'm not working, I'm gaming or out with friends. Pretty normal. But something happened last month that I can't shake, and I think I'm being watched now. It started out so casual, it's almost stupid. It was around 2 a.m. I had just finished a stupid long shift at Starbucks. Shout out to the Karen who spilled her pumpkin cream cold brew and blamed me. I hopped on Discord with my usual crew. We're in this chill server called Pixel Post. Mostly memes, Fortnite clips, and trolling each other with cursed images. That night, one of the newer users, his tag was at Harrispex404, posted a weird link. No context, just a message. Plant the seed. The garden welcomes you. Right under that, someone replied, Lamau, what is this Tumblr poetry shit? Another dude said it looked like an ARG, which got a few people interested. Now here's where I messed up. I clicked it. I know, okay? I should have known better, but it didn't look that shady. The site was just a dark background with this grainy video playing on loop of a garden, like literal plants, ivy-covered statues, mossy fountains, vines crawling up what looked like an abandoned greenhouse. The whole thing had this unsettling VHS filter over it, with staticky audio playing this weird ambient humming and whispers. No words, no music, just whispering. I had my headphones on, and it felt like someone was whispering right behind me. At the center of the screen, there was a button that said "Plant your seed," and under it, "You may exit the garden once your soul blossoms." I clicked it. I don't know why. Curiosity, boredom, stupidity. Take your pick. The garden experience. The screen glitched for a second, and then I was shown a grid of images. Each square was labeled with things like lost memory, innocent lie, first betrayal, unspoken thought, the face, you forgot. It honestly reminded me of those AI-generated trauma exploration games, or those creepy ARG TikToks that blow up sometimes. I clicked on Lost Memory. The page loaded into a full-screen video, but this wasn't random footage. It was me, not like a deepfake. It was a screen recording from my own phone, from 2 years ago. A snap memory I deleted. It was a video of me and my ex laughing at some late-night McDonald's drive-thru after she crashed her car into one of the little neon "Order Here" signs. It was dumb and embarrassing. I deleted it out of spite after she cheated. No one had that video. No one. I tried backing out. I tried exiting the tab. It froze. Then my webcam light came on. For real. My webcam light turned on. No warning. No prompt asking for permission. I freaked out, slammed my laptop shut, and literally just sat in the dark like a deer in headlights. 30 minutes later, I reopened my laptop. The site was gone. Just a 404 page. I checked my files, my browser history, screen recordings. Nothing. It was like it never happened. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. The first message. The next morning, I woke up to a DM on Instagram from a private account called it Soul Gardener. No profile pic, no posts, no mutuals. The message just said, "The soil remembers what you tried to bury." Attached was a screenshot of me, sleeping. It was from the exact moment I shut my laptop. Same hoodie, same angle, my head on the pillow, the same timestamp. I'm not making this up. I don't have cameras in my room. I live alone. The photo was taken from inside my apartment. I ran to check my door. Still locked. Windows closed. Nothing looked broken into. I thought I was going insane. I deleted the message, blocked the account. I even factory reset my phone and scanned my apartment for hidden cameras, like I was on some low-budget spy thriller. But the messages kept coming. Different accounts, different platforms, Snapchat, Twitter, or X, whatever. Even Be Real. One of them showed a picture of me at work, pouring coffee with a timestamp 5 minutes ago. There's no camera at that angle in the Starbucks. Someone was inside the cafe, and they weren't just watching. They started sending me choices. Prune the dead leaves, or let rot spread. Your second seed is ready to plant. Sow one seed .versal dash dark .onion. That's when I realized it wasn't just a site. It was a game, or more like a challenge. Why I'm writing this? This whole thing, the Soul Seed Challenge, it's been blowing up on some of the sketchier parts of the internet. I saw a few Reddit posts about it under different names: Digital Garden, The Blossom Game, Petals for the Dead. The site changes URLs constantly, but the whisper stays the same. People say it starts with one video, one memory, one seed, and then it spreads. Some girl on TikTok, a Real Garden Babe 23, went viral claiming she escaped the garden. Her last post, a blurry video of her running through what looked like an abandoned botanical park in Japan. Her phone drops and you hear her scream. The comments are all like scripted FR and nice ARG, but her account hasn't posted since. Another guy from Berlin tweeted that he found his third seed and that he saw someone buried in his own yard. His Twitter was deactivated the next day. This thing is real, and I think I planted something inside me I can't dig up. I'll post part 2 if anyone's actually reading this. I need to know if anyone else has clicked the garden link. I need to know I'm not the only one seeing them. Please, don't plant the seed. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after the last message. Every sound, every creak of my apartment, every gust of wind brushing past my window made my body freeze. I thought maybe it was sleep deprivation that made me hallucinate the first time I saw him. But then the smell came. Not like smoke, not like rotten food. Worse. Think wet mulch soaked in blood. Think mold growing behind drywall that's been bleeding for weeks. A rotting, earthy stench that sunk into my clothes, my sheets, even my hair. The first night, I sprayed Febreze on my walls like that would help. It didn't. It was inside the walls. No matter where I moved in the apartment, kitchen, bathroom, even the hallway outside, the stench followed. Like I was walking through a dead garden, and I kept waking up with dirt under my nails. Not dry dirt either. Moist, black soil. The kind you'd find in a swamp or a grave. The first glitch. On the 4th night, my phone glitched out while I was scrolling through TikTok. I was watching a video of a guy getting scared in one of those haunted Japan tunnels. You know, the you laugh, you lose type beat. When suddenly, my phone screen froze. The image melted into this distorted static with flashes of greenery behind it. And then came that sound again, the humming. But this time, layered under it was a gurgling noise. Wet, choked breathing, like someone was drowning in a puddle of their own blood. I couldn't pause it, couldn't exit, couldn't turn the volume down. And then the video finally cut to black. That's when he spoke. It's time to plant your second seed. My phone screen lit up. A face filled it. Not human. I swear to you, this thing had skin that looked like tree bark, cracking and splitting across a face that used to be human. Its eyes were pale, like stone covered in mildew, and its mouth was wide, but it didn't move when it spoke. Veins crawled up the side of its neck like roots, the kind you'd see in nightmares, the kind that dig into your bones. I don't know how long I stared at him before the phone just died. The battery was at 79% before this happened. The second seed. Later that night, the Soul Seed site returned. A new link dropped into my email inbox from my own email address. The subject line read, "We buried something inside you. It's sprouting now." The site had changed. This time, it was a 3D rendered greenhouse interior. I could click around with my mouse, like an old school point and click game. The air inside was wet. I could hear it. My speakers played dripping noises, groaning vines sliding along the walls, and what sounded like soft footsteps, just ahead, around every corner. Then the whisper returned. Choose your seed. I hovered over the options. They weren't memories this time. They were actions. Water the grave. Carve the name. Let the roots drink. Dig where the body isn't. Feed the blooming thing. I chose. Dig where the body isn't. The screen snapped. My entire display turned into what looked like grainy CCTV footage, angled downward, showing a corner of my own basement garage. I recognized the moldy yellow stripes on the floor, the water stains on the ceiling. It was my building. In the center of the frame, I saw me. I was holding a shovel. Only, I wasn't. I was in my room, sitting at my desk. I stood up, ran down to the garage. Empty. No shovel, no camera, no me. But when I came back upstairs, the screen had changed again. There was a hole, a deep one. Dark, wet soil being shoveled up in slow, janky video. Each frame flickered. The deeper the hole went, the more I could see something inside it, twitching. It wasn't a body. It wasn't human. It was meat, wrapped in vines. Something growing, something screaming. I couldn't hear it, but I could feel it. My chest physically ached watching it. When I closed the tab, my ears were ringing like I'd been near an explosion. I swear I passed out for hours after that. The delivery, I woke up to knocking at my door. Not the front door, my bedroom door. I live alone. I grabbed the closest thing I could find, my old baseball bat, and yanked the door open. Nothing, just the hallway to the bathroom. But sitting at the end of the hallway, right outside the door to the bathroom, was a cardboard box. No address, no writing, just sealed with black tape. I opened it. Inside was a Polaroid photo, a fresh one. It was my parents' backyard, my childhood home. But the grass was black, the trees were twisted, and standing right in the center was the man with roots for veins, holding a shovel, smiling. Behind him was a mound of dirt. There was a hand sticking out of it, pale, small, like a child's. I haven't lived with my parents in 5 years. We haven't spoken in 2. I called the house. No answer. I drove there that same night. 4 hours, non-stop. What I found made me vomit in the driveway. The entire backyard was ripped open. The ground looked like it had been turned by industrial equipment. Roots and vines were twisted through the soil like veins in a dying limb. And in the center, right where that mound was in the photo, there was a hole. A massive, open grave. Nothing inside but a pair of my baby shoes, the ones my mom kept on the mantle growing up, and a note that said, "Watered well. Keep planting the strangers." After that, people started showing up. I don't mean cops, I mean gardeners. I wish I was kidding. The first one was standing across the street from my building. 3 a.m. Hoodie, face completely covered, holding a watering can. He didn't move for 4 hours, just stood there. I watched him through my peephole, paralyzed. When I finally opened the door with my bat raised, he was gone. Second time, a woman showed up at my Starbucks. She ordered a black bloom latte and just stared at me. Didn't blink. Her eyes were milky white, like they'd been soaked in bleach. She whispered, "Has your soul begun to rot yet?" I reported her to my manager. When security checked the tapes, she wasn't there. Like the camera refused to record her. Where I am now, it's not stopping. I don't know how deep this goes. Every time I think I'm out, I get a message, a link, a seed, and I can feel it now. Inside me, I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, but something's growing in my chest. I feel it when I breathe. A tightness, a pressure, like roots wrapping around my lungs. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in the greenhouse, walking between the rows, plants screaming, faces blooming from buds, a garden of souls. I think they want me to be one of them. I haven't even told you what I saw in my bathtub last night. That deserves its own post. If this gets removed, you'll know why. If someone sends you a link with A in the title, don't click it. I swear on whatever humanity I have left, you won't come back the same. When the screaming started, it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the drain. If you've ever heard the sound of metal twisting, like a car folding in on itself, or bone cracking through gristle, you might get close. But this sound had layers, voices, hundreds, all muffled, choking, drowning beneath the surface of my bathtub. Men, women, children, crying, whispering, laughing, some begging, some were whispering my name. The first time it happened, I thought it was my plumbing. I thought maybe the pipes were shot, or the water pressure was low, or something. But it only happened when I turned the lights off, only in the dark, and the drain was dry. I've stopped using the tub entirely. I don't shower there anymore. I use the sink like I'm camping in my own apartment. I know how insane that sounds, but that's not even close to the worst part, because the third night, I ignored the sounds. Something started growing out of it. The first root, it was about the size of a finger, pale, wet, not a plant, not quite flesh either. It pulsed, like a vein. I saw it out of the corner of my eye when I flicked the bathroom light on at 2:47 a.m. My reflection in the mirror was all foggy, but my eyes locked onto the tub behind me. That thing was crawling out of the drain, like it had been waiting just beneath the surface, listening for silence. It recoiled from the light. I slammed the door shut and stuffed a towel under it. Sat in the hallway for 4 hours, listening to the thing squirm and writhe on the other side of the door. Soft, dragging sounds, like a wet mop sliding across tile. Sometimes it made a high-pitched whimpering sound, like a dog, almost, but not quite, like someone pretending to be a dog. The next morning, I opened the door. The root thing was gone, but the towel, it had bite marks, small, perfectly spaced human teeth marks, not adult, not child, something in between. And the drain? It wasn't a drain anymore. The drain wasn't a drain. It had grown, split open like a rotting wound. No more steel lining, just raw pink tissue, ringed with tiny teeth. I vomited right there in the sink. The smell coming from that thing, sour copper and sulfur, like something fermenting under your skin, was enough to send me into a panic attack. I ran to my bedroom, slammed the door, and tried to pretend this wasn't real. That's when my phone buzzed. New message, unknown number, no contact photo, just a gray dot. You left it hungry. It's eating your reflection instead. Attached was a video. The bathroom mirror. From inside. A reverse angle I never should have seen. The camera must have been behind the glass. The video showed me standing in front of it from earlier, when I first noticed the root. But I wasn't alone in the reflection. There was something behind me, but only in the mirror. Long limbs, no face, and it was smiling with my mouth. The video challenge. That's when I knew this wasn't a challenge. This was an initiation. I didn't join anything. I didn't accept terms or agree to participate. I clicked one link. That's all it took. And now, the soul seed wasn't just online. It was in my plumbing. Later that night, I got another email. Different address. This one was just a string of numbers. 08888130007 at deepsilence.io. The subject line was blank. No body. Just one attachment. A .webm file called germination _phase3_reflected.mp4. I don't remember downloading it, but it was already on my desktop. When I played it, it took over my whole screen. No controls, no close button, just the video. A bathroom, but not mine. Filthy. Walls smeared with something black, moving like it was alive. A man was chained in the tub, naked, eyes stitched shut with wire. Vines were growing from his mouth, writhing like snakes trying to escape. Every few seconds, his body would jerk violently, like something inside was pulling at his spine. When he screamed, the vines tore more flesh from his throat. I tried to pause it. That's when the camera panned and showed the mirror. It was my face staring back, except my eyes weren't mine. They were milky white, dripping soil. My reflection smiled and whispered, "You're almost ready to bloom." The thing in the walls. I ripped the bathroom mirror off the wall the next morning. Behind it, nothing. Not insulation, not drywall, just black vines, twisted like veins through the entire cavity. They twitched when I touched them, like they could feel me. Some had fingernails, tiny human nails embedded in the stalks. I doused the wall in lighter fluid. I don't even smoke, but I had emergency supplies from an old bug-out bag I bought after COVID. I lit the vines on fire. They didn't burn. They screamed, high-pitched, like hundreds of mouths crying at once. And then, they vanished. Ashes and dirt scattered in the tub, but the smell lingered. That smell again. Soil, blood, birth, the garden, the death stream. I didn't sleep that night. I watched YouTube and Twitch non-stop, just trying to flood my brain with something normal. Then a Discord notification popped up from a server I wasn't in. It was called Germination Chamber to 66.6 megahertz. I clicked. The invite expired, but before it disappeared, I saw a live voice chat room called Live, burying the seed in him. There were 212 listeners. I opened TikTok instead. My For You page was suddenly only plants, garden hacks, time lapses of blooming flowers, deep web gardening content. One video showed a guy growing mushrooms from unethical soil that he harvested from abandoned asylum beds. One of the hashtags? Broke Soul Seed Challenge. It's spreading. This isn't some underground ARG. This isn't just a trend. This is a ritual, and it's gone viral. But no one knows it's real. Everyone thinks it's performance art. But I saw something last night that broke me. The final drain bloom. I was sitting in my room, shaking knees to chest, when I heard a loud snap from the bathroom, like wet bone splitting. I went in, slowly, brought my bat again, even though I knew it wouldn't help. The tub was full, not with water, not even with vines, but with faces, dozens, floating just below the surface, all pale, featureless, mouths open in silent screams. The root thing had grown into a tree, bursting through the drain like a tumor. Hanging from its branches were heads. Some of them were mine, not my head. Different versions of me. One had no eyes. One had my mouth sewn shut. One had my parents' faces melted onto mine like masks. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. The thing turned its branches slowly, deliberately, and one of the heads opened its mouth, and spoke in my voice. The bloom is complete. Now it's your turn to root. I left. I ran. I haven't gone back. I'm writing this from a hotel off the highway in another state. But it doesn't matter. My phone has started vibrating even when it's powered off. My eyes ache. The whites are turning gray. I woke up this morning to find soil in my ears. I haven't opened the next email yet. The subject line just says, "Final germination. Feed us your shadow." And the attachment is a file called you_our_home.mp4. I'm afraid to watch it. I think it shows what happens next. If you've seen the site, if anyone has sent you a link with a seed or a garden or anything about the bloom, you're already infected. You don't download it. You grow into it. I woke up in a motel bathtub filled with soil. That's how this part starts. Not water, not blood. Soil. Cold, damp, thick black dirt packed beneath my back, my legs, my spine. My fingernails were bleeding from scratching the porcelain, but it wasn't from trying to escape. It was from digging. I was clawing down, not up. The worst part, I wasn't alone. Something was breathing beneath me. I could feel the exhale against the small of my back. Slow, shallow, rhythmic. It felt wet, like something mouthless trying to breathe through mud. I stumbled out of the tub, shaking, soaked in rot. The mirror across from me showed a version of myself I don't even recognize anymore. My skin was turning greenish gray, like bruised fruit. The veins in my arms weren't veins. They looked like roots. Tiny branching filaments spiderwebbing beneath the surface, pulsing with something thick and too slow to be blood. My teeth? Some of them were loose. The gums were receding, but the spaces they were leaving behind weren't empty. They were being filled. Tiny white sprouts were poking through the holes, like seedling stems, like something growing through the dead. And then came the coughing. The thing I coughed up. I vomited dirt, not just a little. It came up in chunks, hitting the cheap motel tile with wet, slapping sounds. I fell to my knees, coughing until I thought my ribs were going to shatter. Then I coughed up a seed. It hit the ground with a hard click, like ceramic. It wasn't organic, not fully. It was polished, the color of old bone, with tiny carvings etched into it, faces screaming, stretched in pain. I recognized one of them. It was the woman who served me coffee 3 days ago at a rest stop Starbucks in Indiana. I watched her face, open like a flower on the side of the seed, her mouth a perfect gaping hole with thorny petals blooming from her throat. The seed pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then cracked open. Something moved inside it. I didn't stay to watch it hatch. The file, you_our_home.mp4. I told myself I wouldn't open the file, the one from the email. I lasted 6 hours. Then the motel phone rang. I didn't even know it worked. When I answered, I didn't hear a voice, just the garden sounds, humming, scraping, whispers, wind chimes made of teeth, and then a single phrase. You've already bloomed. You just haven't opened your eyes yet. The call ended, and the file began playing on its own. It started with footage of me sleeping from above, but the angles were impossible. I was in the motel bed. The camera was above the ceiling somehow, directly overhead, as if the whole building was transparent. I watched myself twitch, roll over, scratch at my skin, over and over, like I was digging. The camera slowly zoomed in on my chest. There was movement under the skin, crawling, wriggling. like something was swimming up my sternum. At 3 minutes in, my sleeping self sat up violently, not naturally, not like a person, like a puppet being yanked upward. My face was blank, my mouth opened, wider than it should have, skin tearing at the corners. Black vines poured out from my throat, my nose, my eyes, slithering in every direction like the tendrils were blind but hungry. And then I spoke. Only I didn't. The voice that came out was my mother's. The roots are through your memories now. We grow where you rot, the memory that wasn't mine. After the video stopped, I blacked out again. When I came to, I was outside, barefoot, bleeding, kneeling in the middle of a Walmart garden center at 2 a.m. I had dug a hole in the mulch display with my hands. Security lights were flickering. No alarms, no staff. In my hand was a photograph, old, faded, bent from moisture. It was a picture of a funeral, but the coffin wasn't a coffin. It was me, laying in a bed of moss, arms folded, chest split open like a blooming flower. My face was peaceful. My eyes were replaced with lilies. Standing around me were people I'd never met, but every single one of them looked like me. Not clones, not exactly. They were variations, a version of me with long hair, one with burned scars, one missing both arms, one with no skin at all, and all of them were smiling. The soil in my spine. I went to the ER, not because I thought they'd help, but because the pain was getting worse. They ran an X-ray after I told them I had pain near my lower back. They never showed me the scan. They didn't have to. I saw the doctor's face when he looked at it. His eyes went glossy. His mouth hung open like he forgot how to speak. He asked me, "Do you work in agriculture?" I didn't answer. He left the room. He never came back. When I went to look for someone, the ER was empty. No patients, no nurses, no lights. The monitors were still on. Every single one was displaying the Soul Seed logo, the same seed icon that I clicked back when this all started. But now it had roots curling down the screen. The hunger, I can't eat food anymore. I don't mean I don't want to. I mean it doesn't register. Bread crumbles into dust. Water turns thick in my mouth, like sap. Meat sizzles against my tongue, like it's burning. My body rejects it. But when I went outside and knelt by a patch of dead grass, I felt full. I touched the soil and felt it acknowledge me, like it knew I was part of it now. Later that night, I tore open my own shoulder. Don't ask me why. I just knew something was wrong under the skin. And what I pulled out? A leaf. Perfect. Veiny. Soft green with hints of red. It was growing directly from the muscle. There was no blood, just mulch. I collapsed laughing. The others. They're around me now. I see them everywhere. In crowds, in reflections, in mirrors I haven't looked into. People who've bloomed already. People who walked into the garden long before me. Some still look human. Most don't. Some are missing entire chunks of themselves, replaced with bark, fungus, flowers that open when you speak near them. I sat next to a woman on a greyhound whose skin was translucent. You could see spores drifting beneath her flesh like floating dust. She whispered to me without moving her lips, "When your soul finishes rotting, you'll forget you were ever flesh." I didn't ask her how long it would take. I think I already know. The final route. Tonight, I took a knife and carved into my thigh. Don't feel sorry for me. It didn't hurt. There was no pain, only softness, like cutting into soil after rain. Inside wasn't muscle. It wasn't fat. It was a seed pod, filled with tiny wriggling versions of me, miniature, twitching limbs, eyes that opened when I stared too long, teeth that clicked when I whispered. They started singing, a low hum, like the garden. I buried them behind the motel. I had to, but I think one stayed inside. I can feel it now. It's not a parasite. It's a womb. I'm not me anymore. I'm a seed. And you're next. It's done. But I'm still breathing. I shouldn't be. After everything, after what I did to myself, what I saw, what I became, I shouldn't be alive. I should have rotted into the soil with the others. I should have let the bloom swallow me. But I'm still here, writing this final part, so you know what happens when the garden finishes digging into your mind, so you know what happens when you're chosen, because that's what it really is. It's not a challenge, it's not a trend, it's not even a curse, it's a harvest, the final phase. Germinate from within. I tried to kill it, I swear. I tried everything. Fire, salt, steel. I cut so deep I could see my spine twitch under the skin. And still, it grew. Roots coiled around my ribs like arms. My veins weren't mine anymore. My blood ran thick and green-black, like it had been replaced with liquefied moss. Every breath I took filled my lungs with the smell of wet soil and childhood fears I'd buried so deep I forgot they ever existed. That's what they don't tell you. The soul seed doesn't just grow inside your body. It grows through your memories. And when it reaches the ones you've tried hardest to forget, it blooms. I started seeing her again. My sister. She died when I was 10. A freak accident. Fell through the ice at our uncle's cabin in Minnesota. They never found her body. But now, she visits me every night, naked, mud-covered, hair full of leaves, eyes blank, frozen open, and she whispers things I didn't even know I remembered. You pushed me. You watched. You smiled. She says it over and over in a voice that isn't hers. Her voice is gone now. It's become the garden's. I tried to scream back. I tried to break the mirror where she always appears. I tried to shatter the laptop. But it's not about the tech anymore. The garden isn't digital. The garden is conceptual. It lives in ritual. It lives in repentance. It lives in debt. The harvested, they came for me 3 nights ago. They didn't knock. They didn't climb the stairs. They didn't arrive. They simply emerged. Out of the walls. The floor. The wallpaper peeled back like wet bark, and from the drywall came limbs. Not fully human, not fully plant. Joints that bent in the wrong directions. Fingers made of thorns. Teeth that moved like centipedes. And faces. Oh God, the faces. They were mine. Every single one of them. Different versions of me. Smiling, crying, screaming, decomposing, newborn. One of them was blind, but kept sniffing the air for me. One of them was holding an iPhone and live streaming my breakdown to a Soul Seed private stream. Viewer count 1,398. He whispered, "You're trending." They formed a circle around me in the room. They began humming, not like music, not like monks, like insects praying. And from the center of the floor, the wood split open. The real garden was underneath all along. The root womb. They lowered me into the hole. Alive. I couldn't move. The vines had punctured my spine in 7 places and threaded themselves through my nervous system like puppet strings. I felt everything. As the soil pressed against my skin, as the worms slid through my teeth, as my fingernails peeled away like petals, as my tongue split and sprouted a stalk that burst from my mouth like a choking weed. I wasn't dying. I was becoming. Inside the root womb, time didn't exist. I saw centuries of faces flash before me, screaming, smiling, rotting, blooming. People from across the world, from cities, towns, villages. They'd all click the link. Every one of them. Every curious idiot. Every lonely soul. Every TikTok challenge seeker. Every Discord edgelord. Every bored suburban teen who thought it was just a meme. And I saw their memories. A girl in Istanbul, vomiting seeds into her mother's open mouth. A family in Brazil, blooming together at the dinner table, one by one, their skulls cracking as vines wrapped around the chandelier. A streamer in Florida who plucked out his own eyes on live to complete the ritual and then grew camera lenses in the sockets. The seed spread through the unseen web, not just the dark net, the dead net, the buried layers, protocols no one remembers, servers left to rot, abandoned bandwidth haunted by echoes. That's where it lives now. That's where it waits. The final reflection. They said I was ready. The voice wasn't mine anymore. It was all of them. The garden, the harvested, my sister, my parents, you. We bloom through the forgotten. We root in the guilty. We are not a virus. We are the cure. Then they gave me a gift. A mirror. Simple, round, cracked at the edges. I looked in. What stared back wasn't me. It was you. Sitting at your screen, reading this, breathing heavy, wondering if it's real, scanning for the link, thinking maybe it's just a story. The reflection blinked and smiled. Now you're part of the garden too. A final warning. Don't go back to check your browsing history. Don't search Soul Seed Challenge. Don't try to find the site again. You've already seen it. It doesn't matter if you remember. It remembers you. And when you sleep tonight, if you hear whispers from the drain, or find dirt under your nails, or feel a tightness in your chest that wasn't there yesterday, just know you've already planted the seed. Now all that's left is to bloom. Once planted, never forgotten.